today we're going to have a good conversation around financing. What is actually a biggest challenge for many entrepreneurs out there. And so it is my privilege now and honor to bring on stage Ms. Aissa Toure, who's the country manager, the Africa Development Bank country office right here in Rwanda, so that she can set the stage for us with her opening remarks. Let's give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, bonjour, good afternoon, Miroeneza. Let me start by appreciating in a very special way the YouthConnekt Secretariat for having worked with African Development Bank very closely in organizing this session, which is fireside chats, which has already started. I think that you agree with me that the conversation has started. Special thanks to Ms. Uli Koita, the Executive Director of YouthConnekt Africa and her team for putting together this very special session. I'm really excited that the conversation has started with your suggestions, your questions, and because we want a really engaging and a bit disruptive conversation for you to ask the tough questions because we can agree to disagree. But what we agree on, we know that by now, the African youth is no longer seen as a burden, but as an opportunity. And if they are given the right space, the capabilities, the tools, and are listened to. And we agree also that entrepreneurship for youth is one of the ways to trigger innovations, economic development through the creation of businesses and to take risk and to desire the wealth of the continent. So designing innovative finance instruments for youth is rarely a linear process. I think that the CEO of the Rwandese Development Bank, you will agree with me, Ms. Campetta, is not linear. But despite this one, because there are inherent difficulties for the youth, even to know where the financing are or what are the conditions to be able to tap into those different financing streams. So we are here today to discuss those opportunities and to hear from them, how do you want to see this happening? There is a tremendous potential for African Development Bank that I represent here in Rwanda and its numerous partners in terms of supporting innovative financing for youth in Africa, and my colleague Tapera will elaborate on one of the initiatives, the flagship initiative that we have. So ADB is really looking forward with all our partners in this collective venture of supporting our youth of the continent to enter the world of entrepreneurship. So I really want to thank you for turning into this conversation. Merci beaucoup, especially to the government of Rwanda and YouthConnekt Africa. Merci beaucoup.
You know, the cameras are all over the place, and I saw those who didn't clap. Nice, thank you. But we can do better, right? One more time. Thank you. Amazing. I mean, you need to clap better because, you know, these are the people with the money. We are talking money today, nothing else. So if you don't convince them, they go back with the money. Okay? Great stuff. So in just a bit, we'll get in the fire chat session. Actually, for me, this is a playground for me. I enjoy doing this, and it's what we'll be doing in a couple of minutes to come. Actually, seconds, once they fix that chair. But in the meantime, I want those who are joining us right now to kindly occupy the spaces on the lower side here. Let's fill up this space. It will be easier for you to get the microphone if you have a question, if you want to contribute. And it will be unfair to you to travel all the way and not ask any question or not contribute anything. You'll need to prove that you are here in Rwanda. And those who will help you prove that are seated on this side. So take the selfies with them, and you can tell them, yes, I was there. Otherwise, it might be problematic. So it is actually time for us to have an amazing session, and it's a fire chat session that is going to help us to understand where the gaps are on delivering innovative financing for young enterprises in Africa. All of us need the money. Where is that money? How do we creatively get that money? And once we get the money, how do we handle it to be able to remain sustainable and scalable? How do we build a trust with those who are giving us that money? And that's the conversation that we'll be having right here today. So allow me to call on set the speakers that will be joining me for this particular conversation. And I'll start off by calling on set none other than Mr. Tapera Muzira, who's the coordinator, Jobs for Youth in Africa at the Africa Development Bank. Give him a round of applause. He has the jobs and the money. Until he arrives on his seat, kindly, let's keep on clapping for him. Thank you very much. So you can occupy the seat just after the first one. Joining him on set is none other than Ms. Kameta Pichet Sainzoga, the CEO, Development Bank of Rwanda. And I want to warn you, the DJs, she's on fire. Nice, thank you very much. And also joining us on set is Ms. Fadila Chumba, the Secretary General, Africa Business Angels Network, and she's the one who you need to really talk nicely to. Let's give her a round of applause as she joins us on set. Thank you very much. And also joining them is none other than Eugene Anangwe. Let me join. Right, let's get this started. It's amazing to have a very well-balanced panel. I never sit on manels. Manels are panels which are just all men. And let's give a round of applause to the ladies representing here today. I want us to kickstart this conversation with a look at the real situation that we have today. We're talking about the issue of ecosystems. And my mom taught me well that ladies always go first. And I'll apply that today. And I'll start from the far right, Ms. Campeta. The issue of entrepreneurship ecosystems is a challenge, and it seems less developed. And I want us to talk about the issue of the environment. What do you think is the missing link? Because there must be a reason as to why these ecosystems are less developed. From where you sit, what do you think the problem is? Where do you see the problem?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me start with the understanding of entrepreneurship, which I think I've spent a big part of my life being on the government and public side, and now crossed over to the private sector. And I think the first thing we need to agree is that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It is not something that you do when you don't have a job. Being an entrepreneur requires a particular set of skills, character, grit. You have to fail 10 times before you can make it once, and that is not given to everybody. I think that's the first thing, and once we agree on that, then we can think about why is the financial sector not understanding the needs of the private sector and the entrepreneurs currently. So my starting point is we have a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm the CEO of a development bank. We all agree that right now we're not serving the youth adequately. I'm very glad to be with somebody from the Angels Network because I think this is definitely part of the solution. So the first issue with the ecosystem is that we are all operating in a way that's disintegrated. So the bankers think about banking, and banking is a solution that is best for growth. Yeah. But I would be honest, is not necessarily best for startups. I think the Angels Network do their thing, we do our thing. The people who provide collaterals do their thing, but we've not yet found a way of integrating the entire value chain. Yeah. So if we think about the ecosystem, and I'll try to split it maybe in different ways. If you think about a business cycle, I like my fellow lady who said, I'm a young startup, where do I go?
Yeah.
Obviously, the first point is often, you get your startup capital from competitions, from ideation. It's usually like $1,000 to $2,000. You don't have any staff. And then two things happen. Either somebody will give you very bad advice and you come to a bank to grow, and usually that kills your business because the interest rates are very high. The collateral requirements is usually your parents' home. You're still trying to figure out how to start your business. And that typically has gone very poorly. And this is the part where we need to collaborate with pre-seed equity funds, with angels networks, because they're much better suited than we are as bankers to actually hold your hands. And then once you've gone through one or two, possibly even 3 rounds of equity, then typically you become more ready to have access now to debt, to come to a bank and to borrow from a bank.
Yeah.
At that point, we as bankers really need to think about credit guarantees, because the kind of guarantees that we require are very high, and if we don't have collateral support system, then it becomes very difficult for
There's a point I don't want to go away, Kameta. You said, we as a bank, we need to. Often that aches me. When will you start thinking about it?
Well, the good news is we're thinking about it now. So I'll talk about the experience of Rwanda, because this is the market that I know the best. As a development bank right now, we are having joint programs with credits, or let me say collateral support companies, right? So that as a bank, we are able to give you collateral support when you come and you ask for a loan and you're eligible for the loan.
Yeah.
We are talking to development partners to see, can we partner with development partners to lower the cost of finance?
Yeah.
Right now, the interest rates in Rwanda are 16, 17. If you have a bit of grants from a development partner, you can lower it to 11, 12%. That's a very big difference for an entrepreneur. So I think what we have started doing in this market is really to say, can we stop thinking each about our own business model and say, can we work together to reduce the cost of fund, to make sure we get collateral support, to make sure we work together almost in the back office to provide a single solution for the entrepreneurs.
Right. Thank you very much. I'll come to you, Mr. Taper, but before that, let me talk to Fadila here. The angel investing, before we even start talking about how to leverage for its impactfulness for young people who are in business, there might be someone seated here and doesn't even understand how it works. And probably today they leave this room looking for you, for your business card. I hope you carried so many of them. I mean, talk to us first of all. How do we plug into this?
Thank you very much, Eugene, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Well, I am representing ABAN here as the Secretary General. And ABAN stands for the African Business Angel Network. It's a network of about 60 angel network across African countries, and now we have around 30 African countries that are very much represented. And we have over 1,600 angel investors. Now, angel investors are essentially individuals with extra amount of money who are willing to invest into new ideas. If you think of the Silicon Valley in the US, think about how it had emerged, how people with capital was able to sign checks of $1,000, and now think about Africa. These are individuals that are spread across the continent that are willing to take risk into these emerging ideas. Now, think about the successful stories that we have seen on the continent. Cheapest Pay, Flutter Wave. These are products of angel investing. 7 years back then, individuals believed in those ideas and they invested small amount of capital. But apart from capital that angel investor usually put in, they also support with networking and, of course, mentorship, which are elements that are quite important in making sure that these new founders are able to succeed in the journey of entrepreneurship. I think that's kind of a very broad and brief also.
Right. And so how do we leverage on angel investing to be able to create new financing schemes for young entrepreneurs seated in this room today?
Now, listen, from a very basic point of view, last year, startup on the continent attracted $5 billion. $400 million was a contribution of angel investors, right? In every single African country, there is a network of angel investors. Now, if you are part of an ecosystem within your country, try and find out where they are located. And if you go on our website, you'll be able to find out where those angel networks are actually located. Now, when we look at how entrepreneurship ecosystem have evolved over the time, you see that angel investors are playing quite an important role, especially in terms of providing the initial capital that is actually required for the new idea to be tested, but also build some sort of traction. And what is important in terms of youth and creation of value is that there's new kinds of ideas that are emerging on the continent.
Yeah.
And these kind of ideas are the ones that are creating value, and the value that is being created by these startups will be created at scale. Therefore, solving one of our most kind of poignant issues, job creation.
Yeah.
Now, if we are going to solve these issues, we have to make sure that we are able to understand this new dimension of value creation. And that dimension lies within the framework of startups that are emerging on the continent.
Right. Interesting. I want now to hear from the African Development Bank representative here, Mr. Tapera, who's coordinator jobs for youth in Africa. Mr. Tapera, I was privileged to be seated in a room where the president of the African Development Bank stated that Africa must move beyond youth empowerment to youth investment. Young people don't want to be empowered. They want people to invest in them. And so in this regard, what are the opportunities that you see exist for innovative and accessible financing in line with the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banking Initiative at the African Development Bank? What are the opportunities for young people who are listening to you right now?
Right. Thank you very much for that question. First, we need to recognize that youth entrepreneurs, they are an asset for investment.
Yeah.
We have had many projects that have been trying to support access to finance. But these are projects. They come and go. And young people go back to the exact same state where they were. These projects have also benefited very, very few people when the demand is running into millions. Right? So they have failed to reach scale.
Yeah.
Right. Amongst us, there's an entrepreneur who said that they achieved first round success. And they failed to get additional financing to grow. Right now on the continent, we have about 5,000 startups every year. 80% of them fail because of the issue of access to finance. And the idea here is that we need life cycle support. So from startup all the way to high growth. If you look right now, the ecosystem is disjointed. So you get funding, first phase funding, then you get stuck, right? You get funding somewhere in the middle, you get stuck. So the system is not working. And then also the traditional financing model has got both perceived and real risk when it looks to young people.
Yeah.
They have got so many options of lending to the extent that they would prefer to take the easier route, lend to governments, it's easier,
Yeah.
rather than lending to a million startups.
Yeah.
So the traditional financing system is not developed for financing startups. So we need a new institution, a new model that is able to provide life cycle support.
Right.
Right? And we needed to do this at scale and in a sustainable way.
Right.
And it has to be structured because we have an institutional failure. We don't need another youth program to finance, another project, no, because the failure is systemic. There's an institutional failure. There's a missing institution that's supposed to facilitate life cycle support. And this life cycle support is not only supposed to be finance, also non-financial services,
Yeah.
right? Because entrepreneurs require both finance and non-financial services. And we need an ecosystem which is very functional to provide these services at quality, affordably, and throughout the whole life.
Why haven't we had that ecosystem? What's stopping us from having it?
Well, like I said, I think initially the system that's there, the model that's there, the financial system that's there, was not necessarily designed for entrepreneurs, right? And it has a lot of choices. Yeah, it's got a lot of choices in terms of borrowers. So the easier way is to go where it's easy to deploy a lot of capital, get it without a lot of, right. Then there are transactional costs, there are risks involved. So we need to de-risk youth entrepreneurs as an investment.
Right.
Investable asset.
Interesting. Kameta, what is stopping, what is making status quo to prevail? What's stopping you from fixing systems or creating systems that are designed for young entrepreneurs? I mean, it's sad to hear that the systems were not designed for them. It's really sad.
Right.
Yeah, maybe let's go back to how banking, let me talk about
Yes.
banking and maybe the others can talk about the rest. But the way banking was created, it was created to provide financing for companies that were actually serving the state. It's a colonial
Yeah.
institution
Yeah.
at the basis. And I think if you look at the way many banks are still functioning, especially in Africa, they are functioning to serve what we call tenderpreneurs. They're not entrepreneurs. They're
Yeah.
people who specialize in government tenders, right? So if we want to change the way we finance young entrepreneurs, we need to listen to a different type of people. We need
Yeah.
to stop listening to bureaucrats.
Yeah.
My spouse is an entrepreneur. I was a bureaucrat for a very large part of my life, and I can tell you the way I was thinking about taxation, about financing, was completely different from what he was thinking about.
Yeah.
And at the end, I was a policymaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's time that as providers of capital, we start speaking more to, business angel networks. We start speaking more to business development services. We start speaking more to groups of entrepreneurs, and also agree that we must meet halfway. As long as bankers think about banking for tenderpreneurs, I mean, the vicious cycle is just going to continue.
Yeah. And that cues me, because you said we need to speak or to listen to different voices. This room represents the different voices that we're looking to listen to. I think it's time to listen to them. The mic should now start roving. Hands up in the air if you want to contribute to the changing of the financing model of young people, young entrepreneurs. If you're tired of the status quo and you're saying enough is enough, we want to hear your views. The notes are being taken, and I want to start off with any at the front here. Let's speak. He's been raising his hand from the time we started, and then we'll go over there, and then at the back.
Hey everyone, I'm happy to come here, and thank you for one that giving us to come here. My name is Warsame, and I am from Belgium, originally from Somalia. I am an entrepreneur, and I work. I have e-commerce company in Amazon FBA and also Shopify. The reason that's why I come here is to connect and to build my network of this elite generation. I have one question. The question is, my question is how young entrepreneurs, when they are starting their business, how they can find the right, how they can find someone they can say this is my role model and they can follow up in Africa.
Thank you. I want you to leave the questions for me. I want you to tell those decision makers seated here, what do you want? How do you want them to operate to be able to change the way they give you the money when you need the money? Give her the mic over there. Yes.
Good afternoon once more.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ernest Chapi Mokete. I'm from Cameroon. Basically, I'm an entrepreneur. And it's an honor to be here for the very first time in Rwanda. It's an opportunity for me to sit and ask a question, I think, to our panelists. I deal with businesses and with young persons. I run a company called Global Youth Transformative Aid, which goes in line with the new decision taken by the African Development Bank to say we should step away from youth empowerment to youth investment. That's actually what I am doing. We have a program in our office where we train 300 youth every year, and we invest in them. We don't empower them, but we invest in them. And now we recently see how we could scale up the movement. So I was thinking on getting closer to a bank and see how we could have a loan to scale up this business. Now my question is, I have discovered that the more the bank grows, the more the interest rate of the bank. I don't know if it's because of the business tycoon or the bigger people that comes to the bank than the entrepreneurs or the startups. So I'm asking if are there thinking of any condition or clause put in place to meet the underprivileged, those who have the zeal, the passion, and are ready to, to do something, and you see in them if there are any conditions or clause put in place to meet such persons if they don't go through any institution like they just said, the finance institutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, there's a lady seated next to him. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Once again, Rachel Hakim. I'm an entrepreneur, obviously. But Miss said something regarding angel investors that look into young entrepreneurs or startups to build up their investment. I feel like where I came from, female are not getting chances because men are seen to be having greater ideas. No offense, but that's the reality. I faced a lot of challenge. First of all, gender need to be considered, your idea and your capacity, your experience, all of that really gives disappointment and even doubt as an entrepreneur to present your project for it to be seen. All of this need to be counted because I'm a female. I'll see if systems are to be created for entrepreneurs, one, and secondly, to consider female as well. We need to be supported in every aspect. And thirdly, like a nation of South Sudan, I haven't seen or witnessed any angel investment, never at all. In my business, I had to struggle alone, work for my business to be funded, like physical, like self-investment. I have to do that. You do 2 jobs and so that your business will be starting and going on. So I like countries that don't have opportunity like mine sometimes need to be considered too. And also I would like to know, in case of bankers around, we really need international system and how exactly we can also be part to bank and withdraw our money, and at the same time transact internationally without having any difficulties for that to happen. Even in my business, it's all tech, but for me to get people from outside to access my website or my platform, it's a problem. Such kind of platforms, once created, it will even help our GDP to grow as a country and female as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to take those questions and then we're coming back for another round. Just be on standby, hold the mic. I'll start with you, Fadila. Would you want to respond to that last speaker who just was on the floor now?
When you look at the entrepreneurial pool and you look at businesses, of course, there are more women that have created businesses than men. But when you talk about access to capacity building, access to financing, the women are left behind. So from an urban perspective, we have always believed that it has to be a deliberate choice. Anything we do in terms of investment, our investment club, when they do invest, they make sure that they are committed to support women that are emerging on the continent. And I think it's very important. And we have done it in a multiple fashion as well. Last year, we launched Catalytic Africa, and Catalytic Africa is a co-investment co-investment solution between AfriLabs and ABAN. The whole idea of Catalytic Africa was to increase the amount of investment by Angel Network into any startup on the continent. And so far, we have concluded around 9 transactions in Cameroon, Nigeria, Kenya, Tunisia, and Senegal, and 3 others. So when you look at those transactions, over 50% are businesses that are run by women. So I have to reassure you, Rashida, that we're taking it very seriously, and we welcome all the other stakeholders that are actively involved in building startup ecosystem to also do the same, because it's very important for the ecosystem to actually grow in a very healthy way.
Interesting. I'd like to request that for those who are walking in, kindly do so quietly so that we can be able to put attention on what is being said right here on the floor. Kindly, just kindly keep it down. Ms. Kamet, I want to hear your take also on some of the things that have come on the floor, and then we'll come to you. Yes, go ahead.
I think the question regarding the banks and what can be done to incentivize the banks to do more SME and youth investment is a very good question. I think in many countries, that's the role of the development banks. It's very hard to force a commercial bank that has its own capital to invest in a particular direction. But I think it is the role of development banks like the one that I lead to actually have dedicated portfolios for women and youth investments. We have the power to do so because most of us are actually subsidized by government. So it's only fair that we serve the majority of the people, and we know in Africa the majority is youth and a strong female face to business development.
Yeah.
So my advice to my colleague from Cameroon is that the development banks would probably be your best entry point for you to be able to have access to finance from the banking sector. I think the question on international payments from the lady from South Sudan, right now I know Afrexim Bank is actually working actively on a payment platform that would allow all the African countries to be able to pay between the countries without transitioning through a transit currency, which tends to be the dollar, which makes it more expensive. So today, if I want to trade with Uganda, I have to convert my Rwandan francs into dollars into Ugandan shillings, and go through a dollar-denominated gateway. What Afrexim Bank is doing is actually trying to find a way for us to be able to transact in our local currencies directly. I know this was launched last year. It should be operational very soon. It's also on the back of the AfCFTA trade agreement for Africa. And I think the combination of the two will probably be the biggest change in terms of international payment for companies like yours that are looking to get clients from all over Africa.
Right.
That's probably our best bet.
Right. Should we give them time to get in? Can you hear? Are they interfering with you? All right. Kindly walk in silently. Take your seats. This is being televised live. If you're the noisemaker, mommy is watching you at home. Right. Mr. Tapera, do you think it's time for affirmative action in all these issues of financing entrepreneurs?
Not affirmative action, but investment. There's a huge difference. I think that it is time to look at the possibility of establishing financial institutions that are dedicated at serving youth entrepreneurs, that develop the right products and the right instruments and provide life cycle support for them to develop from startups all the way to medium enterprises.
Let's give them some time just to settle.
Hello?
Could you kindly mwihangane gatoya mwichare muchecheke kugira ngo tumve ibiri kuvugwa hano, sivyo? Munkomere amashi nyine. So kindly let's settle and be able to listen to what is coming out of this session. If you're just joining us and you'd like to know what this session is about, we are discussing around the issue of innovative financing for young enterprises in Africa. You could be having a business and you've been looking for how to get financing out of it. I have a very able panel right here that is very well represented to listen to you and to hear what you'd like to be heard around the issue of financing your business. Or if you want to know how to get financing for your business, unless if you're well-to-do, then I think you'd want to concentrate and listen keenly to what is coming out of here. So we appreciate you for settling down, and now we can probably continue. Kindly let's keep quiet and listen to this session. I want to open again the floor to more questions. I'll come here. Over here. Do we have a microphone on this end? Kindly say your name and the country.
Yes, hello?
And your question. Over here, kindly. I'll come to you. Let's just pick her first. I'm really sorry. Let's start from her.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
My name is Ruth Mweni from Kenya. I'm a government official. I currently serve my government at State House, Kenya. I'm representing the youth here today. Other than that, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a former radio presenter. So you have to have all these skills in life to survive. I want to agree with you, my co-moderator in the future. But thank you very much to the panelists. This is quite interesting and amazing. So I wanted to bring this to, mine is a comment, I'd like there are 3 or 4. And first of all, I would want to speak to my fellow entrepreneurs who are here today. I think as much as money is given to us, if we are not disciplined, then there's no far, we can't go far. So we have to be very disciplined in our careers as entrepreneurs. We have to be confident in what we are starting, and we have to understand what is the goal and the vision of this business that you are starting. Sometimes I think it's also important, and just like what Mr. I think I got his name well, Tapera, said, it's all about investments. And from where I see it, because I know like my country right now, we are starting a hustler fund, which has been directed by His Excellency, the President, to support all the hustlers, like you heard yesterday, the Deputy President say yesterday. So if there are Kenyans here, maybe you should clap for our governments. And we're inviting other countries to come and also join us in this hustler fund, and we create co-networking experiences through this. So just like Mr. Tapera said, an investor cannot invest in you if you're not serious with your business, my fellow co-entrepreneurs. You have to go to an investor with something that, even when I look at putting my billions in it, I am sure that I am really taking forward a future youth who is going to help many other. Look at Tony Olomule. Look at all the other entrepreneurs that we have all over the globe. So you have to, first of all, look at what you're presenting to investors. And to the investors who are seated maybe in this forum, I think it will be important through the panelists to give a chance for co-networking 1 minute for each and every person, because you never know, there's an investor seated next to you. So just speak out and say, this is what I'm able to do. This is what, you never know, you might get the next funder next to you. So for me, how I've survived in this life is everyone seated next to me is an investor in my life, because we live through other people's lives. We learn from what they offer. We learn to understand what is it that they are doing best. So in this forum today, your next billionaire, your next investor for your next trip, your next investor for your next big market is seated next to you. Can I get a hallelujah for that? Thank you. Yeah. So as we keep going, I'd also want to request the panelists that seated there, can we start an entrepreneurship hub whereby you just teach us and train us how to be better entrepreneurs? I understand that I would like to be corrected. Are entrepreneurs born or made? I don't know. So that's a question that is being asked every now and then. So I would like to get this from our panelists. And I think that's, we're throwing back the ball to you. You had someone who held your hand to get where you are. Whose hand are you holding today? Thank you very much.
Amazing. Yes. Let's give a round of applause. That's amazing. I want us to hear those deep challenges and, of course, also your personal experiences of how you're dealing with getting finance. There's a gentleman who already had the microphone. I want him just to finish and then we'll come to you. The lady in white, I see you. The two of you, I see you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mayang Tut, 24 years old from South Sudan. I'm a tech entrepreneur. In my country, South Sudan, we don't have Uber. I hope all of you guys know Uber. So my team and I decided to build our own Uber, which is basically operating in the country right now. So that's one suggestion or a little bit of advice that I can give to everyone around here, especially our leaders. Money and power plus knowledge are a great asset when they are used with compassion. It's just like a knife. Is knife good or bad? We all know knife. It depends on who is holding it, okay? A thief can really use the knife to kill someone, and a doctor can use the knife to save somebody's life. How do I say this? Those with money and knowledge plus respect are our financial institutions. And if there is a way they can support young people, they can really help and save a lot of life. So my question is going straight to the African Development Banks, that a lot of ideas are dying every single day right now just because there's no support, okay, that is coming from our financial institutions. There's something we always call a startup. A startup is something that you are starting just as an idea. And when you go to the banks or maybe investors, they will always ask you about what you have done and many different things. They'll ask you about collaterals and everything. So how can a startup that you are just starting 2 days ago or maybe 3 months ago can be able to have a collateral that can grant you to our finances? I think we really needed to look into that. If we really want to build great things for Africa itself, we all know Facebook, okay? There's so much money that had been invested in Facebook many years ago. And this is a worldwide thing right now. A lot of people are using it. And the main reason why African startup or maybe African youth don't have things that are being used internationally is because our financial institutions that we have don't really support those, okay? If we build something, especially me as Mayang from South Sudan, I really want to build something for my country. And when it is done with my team, we'll take a step of trying to build something for the whole Africa. Yeah. And we'll do it for the support that comes from our financial institutions, okay? So how can we put all this into the place? Right. So this is the question I'm asking. Otherwise, thank you everyone. I've taken a lot of time.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Pump up the volume for this mic. Thank you. Thank you. The lady at the back, yes. Go ahead. Do you have a mic? Kindly keep it to the point. I want us to have as many questions as possible, so please go to the point. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hodan Abdul Hakim, and I'm from XLA School, and I'm an Ethiopian girl. 16 years old. So today we're here to, I forget what to say. Sorry, I'm just kind of nervous right now. So we're here to say that we want to be heard. We have so much ideas to change Africa, to change the whole world, and we want to be heard as a young people. And from, like, seriously, there's so many people right now that are sitting here today, but No one is giving the opportunity to speak. And we have this project. It's so big, it can change the young people with passionate. And we want investors. We want to start now changing the world.
Tell us
now.
about it. Tell us about it. The investors are here.
So we created this art school. We wanted to incorporate like African creative industry of education so it can boost our economy. So this school is going to generate its own money. We're going to have like a high school from grade 10 to 12, and we're going to take students and we're going to have an additional like TVET program for 2 years. So in this school, although we have like the regular curriculum, we're going to have extra art courses, we're going to have painting, we're going to have graphic arts, we're going to have fashion, she's an artist, we're going to have all these different cultural, traditional fine arts. And we really want people to listen to us because this idea, like it means a lot to us because if you're an art student in any like African school now, you get discouraged. You go and do everything like the other people are doing. You go and say, oh, I'll do ICT because everyone is doing ICT. I'll do nursing because everyone is doing nursing. But we want people to have that chance to decide in high school before they even graduate.
So, I'm a fashion designer, okay? I'm a young fashion designer. And I don't fit in the school because the school is a normal school. There is no fashion thing. There's no art things, courses. So we want to make a school for that because there's a lot of fashion students out there and no one is listening to them. We want to be heard.
You have been heard. You have been heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I want while you're still hot on it, Madam Kameta, you here, you develop, and your role is to also listen to what she's just said. What sort of response would you be giving to the young girls?
I think the first response is to tell them we've come here to listen, and that's why we're spending more time with questions than answers. So you are definitely being heard, and I want to give you that comfort.
Yeah, the angel investors. I mean, what would you support in such kind of ways in terms of financing? What should they do? They say they want money to support their initiatives. How do they approach you? How do they work around it?
I think, ladies, you're very young, and I'm so fascinated listening to how brave you are, coming out here and expressing what you want to build. And I think it's very much achievable. And I will give you guys a challenge. If you're able to convince your neighbor on how great your idea is, I will make sure that I will convince my own angel investor to consider investing in your idea.
Right. Tapera, they don't want to be empowered. They want investments. What will you tell them?
I think, first of all, I want to congratulate the young lady, a 16-year-old, at 16 years old, to already be thinking about their own business. This is really commendable. And I think that the School of Art and Fashion Design, the market is very big for that in Africa right now and even outside Africa, so it's an excellent business idea.
Yeah.
But this is what we've been saying. We don't have the right products, financial products and instruments to support such startups. We don't have that. We also do not have an easily accessible financial institution that caters specifically for those needs, right?
Can we form it after this session?
We can.
Yeah.
And this is what the Africa Development Bank is calling the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Bank Initiative.
Yeah.
The idea is for us to work in country with my colleagues to establish an ecosystem anchor, a new financial institution that caters specifically for the needs of young entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
If she goes to the bank today, they will ask for collateral. They will ask for trading history.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a new idea, but they will ask for experience.
Yeah.
Right? So the current financial system and the way it evaluates these ideas is not ideal, it's not working. So we need a completely new institution. It could be a subsidiary of the development bank. We can establish a risk guarantee to de-risk investments into such setups.
Tapera,
So there's a lot that can be done.
I want to hear commitments. I want to hear commitments because young people say we've had this a lot of times. When we leave such a forum, it's business as usual. What are the commitments that we are making? And I'll come back to the ladies on the panel as well.
Correct. So we have actually made a commitment on this as the Africa Development Bank.
Yeah.
We have a number of countries that we are actually now working with to establish these financial institutions. So we are very committed to that because we believe there's a missing institution, there's an ecosystem player who's missing to be able to cater for the various needs of entrepreneurs from start to small and medium enterprises.
Right. Fadila, there's been an issue of consistency. Young people like the two ladies come with ideas, they're funded, but then after a while, I mean, the business doesn't survive longer. What explains this phenomenon and what should be done to be able to maintain and see the consistency and scaling up?
We should look at it from a very ecosystem perspective, right? And in every single country, let's say startup ecosystem, there are 4 key players. You have the startup themselves, you have the innovation hubs, accelerator program, incubation program, you have the angel investors, but most importantly, you have the policymakers, right? And from the moment you are incubating an idea to the time that you reach a point where it's out there in the market and is attractive to angel investors, attractive to VC firm, you need to be able to have this ecosystem support those innovation, those ideas.
Yeah.
And you know very well that Innovation Hub essentially are built with a grant model. They are funded by DFIs, and when they run out of funding, they no longer are able to support the startup with the best quality of skills or any other services that might be necessary.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the biggest issues.
Yeah.
And I think from our end, the way we have tried to really solve it is through Catalytic Africa, which is a new co-matching or let's say co-investment solution that we have designed by integrating all these key stakeholders, the Innovation Hub, the startup, and even the angel network, because all these parties need some form of capital to sustain their operation.
Right.
So whenever we do an investment or we co-invest with our angel network, we give with the distribution as spread across these parties. The startup themselves would receive 82.5% of our investment. The Innovation Hub will receive 10%. And the angel network would receive 2.5%, and the 5%, the remaining 5% would be there to cover fees. Now, why are we investing into Innovation Hub? For them to bring out or to provide that capacity building that we need them to do for startup, we want to make sure that they are high level. And there's no way you can actually build a successful startup with bad capacity building being provided. So we're really looking at it from an ecosystem perspective, and I think it's really working for us. And I hope that we will be able to raise additional LPs to continue this co-investment model. And so far we've raised 1.5 million from AFD, and we are discussing with other potential ALPs to increase the pool that will be made available to co-invest with our angel network and angel investors.
Right. Thank you. I want to take just 3 last questions, just 3 burning questions, and then we will close the session. I see the lady in the notebook. Let's give her the mic. Kindly, let's make it fast.
Hi, thank you. My name is Magda, working with the UNDP HQ. I'm Ethiopian. So my question is, when you're working with entrepreneurs or startups, do you consider if they have company or organizational policies that align with Agenda 2063?
Put the mic closer to your mouth.
Okay. So when working with entrepreneurs or startups, do you consider if they have company or organization policies that align with Agenda 2063 or Agenda 2030? Or provide a support for startup companies if they have sustainable policies within them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. One more from this row. Kindly give out the mic. Anybody who has it, just start talking. Who has the mic? Give out the mic. Just if you get it, start talking. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Mohunda Vanessa, and I'm a Rwandan. So I have two questions. The first, as leaders, would you advise us to start the businesses with bank loans? That was the first. Then the second, here youth are scared to bear the risks of being an entrepreneur, but you did so. You are holding different and strong positions now. What can you advise them so that they could reach where you are now, or so they could reach beyond the expectations of now? So, and as an opportunity you gave us, let me advertise this. This is my handmade. For any support, you could join me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right, you have the mic, just start talking. I've seen the mic somewhere here. Yes.
Yeah. Hi. Hello, guys. My name is Valentina Jacobi, and I'm from Ghana. And I'm the founder of a company called En Route 54, which delivers impact experiences in Africa. So my question, or really my comment is, as a startup, and this is my second startup, in Ghana, and I believe that many entrepreneurs will share the same sentiment, there is a lack of visibility into funding and opportunities for grants that small business owners can tap into. I think there's a perception that if you want to get financing for your business or you want to grow what you're building, you have to go into the Western world, you have to go outside and find the financing. And I think that I want to understand what your thoughts are around ending those thoughts and how we can access those funds for African businesses. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you very much. We'd said only three, but just sneak in. Who has the mic?
I have the mic.
All right, go ahead. That's the last one for now. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Mehdi Segawa. I come from an area in Uganda. I prefer to call myself African. Well, mine is a comment. The lady from Kenya spoke about ecosystems. And I believe within us as youths, we've got capital. We are angel investors. In Africa, people come across to contribute for weddings, they contribute for birthday parties, and of late we have things like baby showers. How about if we had business showers? Huh? Huh? Imagine we as youths, Africa contains over billions of people. Imagine if just 10 million of us just came up with just $1 each. How much money would that be? So that's a big pool. So we are investors, we are angel investors as ourselves. Where I come from in Africa, we find anthills. So anthills are molds from soil, and they are created by tiny insects, termites. So if they can come together and build an anthill, then we as young people can create these business showers and become our own angel investors. Let's not wait for the African Development Bank. We've got the power as youth. So I remain Mehdi Segawa. I'm from Sega Aspirations, and I like inspiring people. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Karibu sana. Thank you very much. I'm always worried because when I start opening, interesting ideas come and I don't want to lock them out. Who has the most burning one? Just one last one. If you have the mic, speak. You are the last person to speak. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Hi. Hi, I'm Ashley Kalinda, and I come from EasyTech LT Limited. We're an e-commerce platform here in Rwanda. I just have 3 questions. On the panel, you mentioned having dialogue between banks, government, UN agencies, and I just want to find out what are those discussions? What are you actually critically engaging with? My second question is, how do entrepreneurs get buy-in for digital payments and funding for that? And my final question is about social enterprises. And I would like to know how ABAN deals with social enterprises and if there is a place for that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want us to take those very good questions and comments as we add our closing remarks. And I'll start with you, Mr. Tapera. And remember the question on holding the entrepreneur's hands. Someone held your hand. Who are you holding the hand today? Plus your commitments as we close today's session.
Right, thank you very much. I think the entrepreneur from Ghana really described some of the constraints we are trying to resolve as the Africa Development Bank. First of all, there's information asymmetry. You actually don't know where is what.
Yeah.
Just solving that. Second, there's a problem in getting the appropriate financial product. One of the entrepreneurs was asking whether I should get a bank loan or not. So we need an institution that is really delivering for entrepreneurs. Currently, the banking system is not doing this. And so we are committed to work with my colleagues in the ecosystem to establish these institutions so that we can move away from the worry about collateral because they know how to assess the risk. They've got de-risking mechanisms to invest in young people. They have investment funds that can take the business from startup to small and medium enterprises. They are fully designed to meet the specific needs of entrepreneurs. The current commercial banking system is not designed for this. So we really need to work together with governments, with all the partners in the ecosystem to be able to establish these new institutions. My colleague here was talking about the good work they are doing as angel investors, but at some point she was talking about the need for additional capital. These institutions, their role will be to mobilize capital from different investors, including governments and also other donors, to make sure there is capital sufficient enough to expand what they are doing, right? To de-risk the development bank so they reach entrepreneurs. So we really need new institutions.
Right.
That's what we believe as Africa Development Bank. And we are committed to work with all the countries as our member countries and all the ecosystem players and take the ecosystem approach and make sure that entrepreneurs have the access to finance that they need as well as business development services that ensures that their businesses become successful.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Fadila, I mean, your take on the questions, comments on the floor.
Can you, there are a number of things that I would like us to remember today. That on this continent that is ours, there are new type of companies that are already creating value at scale. And these new type of companies are the type of company that will be able to solve some of the most kind of important issues the continent is facing, whether it being job creation, poverty reduction, and so forth. And because we understand that these are the type of company that will create this kind of value that we have for this continent, that's why angel investing exists. We understand the risk in investing into early stage companies. We want to take that risk with other Africans that have spare cash to invest, because angel investing is not for everybody. And in the process of investing, we want to make sure that the innovation hubs across the continent also do have the support that they need in order to build investable companies. And in the process of also doing that, we want to make sure that the policymakers do understand that they need to create a more conducive environment for all these key players. And by having all these key players working in the right direction, we believe that the value that we want to create will be done very fast. To the lady from Ghana, we have an angel network called the Accra Angel Network. They have invested in a number of companies in Ghana, and you can find them online. And there are a number of other investors that are not particularly part of a group, but who are active investors. And I will also advise you to try and connect with them, or if you reach out to ABAN, we will always make sure that we'll connect you with them. To all the young people here today, the youth with great ideas, understand your complaints that the banks are not listening to the ideas. But one thing that I want to remind you is that think about looking for capital like going to look good in a salon. You want to look good, that's the main objective. But as a man, you want to go to the barber. As a woman, you want to go to the hairdresser, but you want to look good, right? So in the investment value chain, everybody play its role.
Right.
Make sure you understand who your target is, and you will raise your capital.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Kameta, you have the last word. Just real briefly, what is your taking or parting shot?
Thank you very much. I just have 3 messages. I think one of the questions was, would I advise somebody to start their business with a bank loan? And the answer is no. I think she had a better solution if you're a startup and you're moving from 0 staff to probably 5 staff than going to the bank. So I would never advise a young person with 0 staff, 0 experience to start with a bank loan. I think angel investors are the starting point, and then you grow into a bank loan. I love the idea of business showers. I think that's the way to go. We always have jokes that, you know, everybody needs a Nigerian uncle, like somebody who believes in you and ready to put up your startup capital. And often this is within your community, this is within people who know you before you can go to third parties. The second message was a question around, in Rwanda, where are these conversations happening? And I want to give you comfort that these conversations are happening under the leadership of the Ministry of Innovation and ICT. And under the Innovation City initiative, there are a lot of conversations around pre-seed funding. So how do we create many Rwanda Nigerian uncles for this ecosystem? And this conversation is an ongoing conversation that has some funding from the World Bank, and we're actively pursuing it with Minister Paula and her team. And then finally is to tell the youth that the landscape of financing in Africa is changing. And I think that's why you have 3 African panelists. We are listening, we can hear that there is an issue, there's a gap. It is changing, don't get tired, be part of the conversation, keep pushing us, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. It is this time that I want to thank our panelists. They've really done well on this fireside chat session. And ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Kameta Pichet Sainzoga, the CEO, Development Bank of Rwanda. Let's give her a round of applause. Also with us was Ms. Fadila Chumba, Secretary General, Africa Business Angels Network. Let's give her a round of applause. And Mr. Tapera Muzira, Coordinator, Jobs for Youth in Africa, the Africa Development Bank. And we want to thank you for being patient and also following and being very participatory. They remain available. Please make sure that you are in touch with them, exchange contacts, and reach out to them, because that's what we want out of this Youth Connect Summit. We want to connect. My name, as always, is Eugene. Anangwe. Goodbye for now.